the party really
Yeah.
going on around you, yeah. And the fence. So essentially, there's a stand on one side, and then there's kind of a fence. It's all fenced around it, but the fence is only about 2 foot from the sideline. So I remember were running a kick out whereby the two cornerbacks had to just get pretty much get to the sideline, right? So our first kick out, I think Roy Lavelle was in goal. I just got to the sideline, and standing literally 2 foot away from me is just like 20 lads with pints in their hands leaning over the bar. Please don't kick the ball out here to me. I could get a pint of John Smith's across the back of my head. But yeah, so it's a different atmosphere. But I don't look, like I said, this Galway team is very, very experienced, and they'll be going out there to just get the job done and move on.
The Maroon White Pod brought to you by CityLink. For bookings, timetables, updates, and any other information, head to citylink.ie. Welcome along to the Maroon White Pod. This week, I'm delighted to be joined by London senior football captain Eoin Walsh, formerly of Cullen and previously played with the Galway Minors and under 21s as well. When I say that, Owen, coming up against your native county, obviously this weekend, what's that feeling like?
Um, it's yeah, it's a difficult one really. It's definitely a unique kind of experience coming up against um your own county, but I also kind of feel like at the same time, like I've been gone 5 years, so I feel like that team that I've like some of them lads that I played with, there's not that many left. There is still a few. Some lads like I've never even played against them in club championship when I was at home, so I kind of feel like the Galway team that say when I was leaving that I was supporting, like that's so different. So in a way, it doesn't really feel like it's kind of like a team that I was really, really connected with and that we're playing against. So I suppose it kind of makes it easier that way. Obviously, there's a couple of lads from my Cullen who I'd be fairly close with in and around the panel. So that kind of has its own, I suppose, uniqueness that you're playing against club mates and lads that you'd have known from like a young age that you're coming up against them in an intercounty game. It's definitely unique, but like I said, I feel like I've been gone so long and their panel has changed so much that almost like that connection, there's like not that many players really left that I would have played with.
You mentioned there the Cullen lads, a few of them on it, a few obviously having injury struggles this year as well. For a go, is there a text sent to any of these Cullen lads before they come out and play, or is it just very much kind of chatty after the game?
I know I haven't been in touch with any of them. I met Sean and Owen Kelly around Christmas time. And we had a bit of a bit of a slag then, kind of seeing Ruislip kind of a thing. No, I haven't been on to them. They haven't been on to me. Haven't spoken to them probably since Christmas. So yeah, we'll see them Saturday and we'll chat to them afterwards, I'm sure. I've probably been in touch with other people. I've been on to Sean's auntie. Everyone probably knows her, Mairead. She's absolutely fanatic. So I've been on to her, but yeah, she's not letting anything slip. So yeah, you're not getting any information out of her.
Just with that, you mentioned there's not as much of a connection maybe to some of these Galway players, but in particular, you would have played with Shane Walsh, Damien Comer, Liam South from that 2013 All Ireland winning team. But when you look back on that whole experience before you did go to London, is it nearly hard in some ways for you to believe that that was 11 years ago?
Big time, yeah. It's like, yeah, 11 years. I don't know if you had told me back then that I'd either A, still be playing and B, playing with London. I definitely wouldn't have believed you probably in either of those. It does make you feel old when you think 11, 10 years ago that that's what I was doing. Um, I still kind of feel that age. I'm sure I'm a very different player. I've been very lucky with injuries. I haven't had much injuries. I still feel like I'm young at heart, but definitely, yeah, when you think I was 20 at the time and I'm now 10 or 11 years on, yeah, it's very strange to think about. But yeah, that was obviously a really, really good year. We just had a really, really good group. Everything just kind of came together. Um, like Alan Flynn was over us, and right from the start, I think the players we had and just the level of detail that Alan used to put into it alongside Decky Meehan and Paul Clancy, just kind of thought there could be something on here. And then obviously you've mentioned Damo and Shane, like we had Tom Flynn, Fintan Curran, like we'd lads who had senior experience as well. So I think everything combined that year, I felt almost from the start that there was something that could have been there, but like it's never easy. So to actually come out and go on and win that was really, really special. Yeah.
Just with that, there, I presume after the 21s, there was obviously a hope for you to play with Galway, but you moved to London after that, and then when you're looking on as well at for your club, Mike Cullen being so successful, and probably hard to believe where Dave went at when you originally started out, but has that been tough watching Galway and Mike Cullen on from a distance?
Yeah, so that was my see, I played 2 years under 21, so I played in 2013 and then went to America for the summer. And that year we actually got relegated with my Cullen. I came back early from America and played in a relegation playoff game. And we ended up going down to intermediate and then played under 21 with Galway the following year as well. And we're actually beaten.
The Leitrim, wasn't it?
Yeah, so like two very contrasting years. Like you had the highs of the year before of winning, and then almost having like an expectation that we should go far again to being beaten by Leitrim in the first round. Um, and then I went in with the seniors that year. I think so that was 14. They got to a quarter final against Kerry. But I was only kind of ever on the fringes of that panel. Like I wasn't making championship squads or like say the 24 or that. But I trained with them that year, and then I was down in IT Carlow for my final year the following year, and I just thought it wasn't plausible for me to do it. So I ended up pulling out, and then kind of whether I knew it at the time, that was almost like nail in the coffin. Like once you're out, you're out. I suppose unless you're exceptional, like some lads like the likes of Jack McCaffrey or that can dip in and out or leave the panel and come back in. Um, so I suppose, yeah, whether I knew it or not at the time, that was kind of that. Um, I have obviously kept like so my first year, 2019, being over here actually was the last time Galway played here. So I was watching them in Ruislip 5 years ago. That was obviously a great day and great weekend. Obviously being in the stands rather than on the pitch, different experience this weekend. But yeah, I've always kept up a really keen interest in watching Galway games whenever I can, looking out for results. Like my parents, my family are massive into it, so they go to most Galway games. So I'm always kind of on the phone chatting to them about it, and then obviously the lads at home, you kind of keep an interest in it. My Colin, obviously, when I moved over, I did kind of him and haw about whether I'd go back, and we had some conversations about still playing with them and how it would work about trying to fly over and stuff. And I did give it a bit of thought, but then I ultimately thought, like, if I'm going to move to London, I'm just going to fully immerse myself over here and just leave kind of that side of things at home. And then got involved with a club, St. Kieran's over here. A good friend of mine was leaving his club in London and said, look, if you're going to join a club, I'm leaving and joining St. Kieran, so come and join at me. And then I suppose once I decided or made that decision that I was going to go in with St. Kieran's, I felt I kind of made my bed, and I was pretty adamant that I wasn't ever going to try and travel back from my Cullen games. I just didn't see how I could personally do it. And then my first year playing with London kind of almost cemented that, because we were back and forth like for league games, and I just said there's no way that I could have done it. Like at least with London, you're well looked after, you're put up in hotels, you don't need to think about travel or food, like what you eat, when you eat. Whereas if you're trying to do it for your club, you're almost like relying on people to get you from the airport and bring you to games, and then there's the expectation that you're flying over. So I just didn't think I could do it. Some lads do it, and I've spoken to them about it. They say it's really tough. It can obviously be done, but I just didn't think I could. which I suppose made it a small bit easier. Then when they actually won it, I kind of didn't feel like, I suppose if I was on the fence about going back and they won it, I would have been kicking myself saying, Jesus, that could have been me. But I think when I had made my bed, I was like, yeah, I can't do it. So it made it far easier and more enjoyable for me to see them win, because there was no like regret on my side then.
Yeah, it's amazing that some lads can do that commute. But do you ever think you'll play with Mike Cullen again?
Ah, who knows? I'm fully committed to London and St.
Yeah.
Kieran's today. Tomorrow, I don't know. Nobody knows. I'll be here for the next couple of years, I think. So who knows if I move home? Obviously, yeah, I'd love to link up with them. I try and train with them like when I go home around Christmas time, like the year went far. I was kind of lucky they were still training then, and it's brilliant to go down, and they've always been really accommodating. I love just going back and getting on the pitch with them again. Like, um, who knows? Let's see.
Just with that, when you mentioned you moved to London, I presume it probably wasn't in your head at the very start that you're going to move to London and play with London, because there's a lot of people who move to London as footballers but just don't really seem interested to play intercounty. What brought it to you then that you were going to give it a go at London?
Yeah, you're right. It definitely wasn't on my radar. And even playing club football, I kind of wasn't sure. I sort of half thought I'd come over and leave football and kind of not have like obviously everybody and partners give out about football calendar, it's your whole life. So I kind of thought, look, I'll move here, I'll start fresh. But I suppose I got roped into it, and the kind of suppose I was always going to end up falling into it, and I'm glad I did, because you obviously meet people of kind of similar mindsets, and you just meet people from different parts of Ireland that play over here. So in terms of like a social life and kind of having like a small community, it's been really, really good. Um, the London, I suppose it kind of like people in the club used to say like, oh, would you go in? So I played a year basically of club championship before I went in with London. And people used to like, they'd ask, would you go in if you were asked? And I kind of thought, oh, maybe I will, maybe I won't. And there was obviously a couple of lads from St. Kieran's who had played for London before. So I suppose even before I'd gotten the phone call, I kind of nearly thought about it, like, will I actually give it a go if I'm asked to go in? And then, yeah, one evening I got a call from Michael Maher, who's still, or who's current manager still, and he just said, we'd love to have you in. And I suppose I kind of half thought about it already. Um, so I said I'd go in, and then I suppose, yeah, I never really thought about how long I'd give it. Like I've been there now, I think 4 years, which kind of included like a 2020 year, which we had played half of the league, and then everything got shut down because of the pandemic. So I'd never really thought about it initially when I went in. I just kind of thought I'll go in, see how it goes, and then I suppose I've just kind of got hooked on it again, just hooked on playing intercounty football and competing, especially like on a national level, like in Division 4. I just really, really enjoy it. So every year it's been a bit of a no-brainer to go back. Um, so yeah, let's see how long I keep going. I've taken every day as it comes over here, and take every week as it comes. Never know really what's going to happen.
There's obviously a huge amount of challenges you faced, even with training. I know I was watching something before where you were training in a rugby pitch, was it? And a lot of people in this London team have to travel very fair distances out from the city just with the commute to training. Like, how big of a challenge is that?
Yeah, I suppose I mean, travel wise, it's very different over here, that you're like everybody is probably relying on public transport, whereas like time wise, it might actually work out the same as somebody traveling to, say, in Galway, like to Loch George, across town or whatever. I suppose it's more unique in that you're relying on like buses and tubes and carrying gear bags and stuff. Not everybody drives over here. So I suppose that's kind of a logistical problem in itself. I've been quite lucky where we train. It's So I'm living in Ealing, which is in West London, which I suppose for anybody who's familiar with Ruislip, it isn't too far from Ruislip. So I'm kind of in nearly a triangle between my home, the rugby club where we train, and Ruislip, which isn't on purpose, but it does work out for me. Um, but yeah, I suppose the biggest challenge is definitely training on the rugby pitch. Like the facilities are really, really good, like dressing rooms, um, the gym area that they have, like meeting rooms, everything is top notch, except the fact that we're training on a rugby pitch, and that's really just out of our hands. Like every year, they've looked at alternative ways that we can do it if it's viable for us to train on club pitches, but just for what we need and what we're looking for as a package, that has kind of been the best option for us. Um, so we train obviously kind of November, December, we end up on AstroTurf, which isn't ideal at all. And then any chance we get, we're out on the pitches. But I suppose the biggest thing is you're playing on like a rugby sized pitch. So when we're trying to do anything tactical in terms of like shape or positional play, you're almost marking out a pitch with cones, which is obviously quite difficult. So I find at the start of the league, it can be a bit difficult going from a rugby pitch to, say, a normal sized football pitch. And I think we've found that in the last couple of years that when we get access to train in Ruislip, we tend to kind of grow into it as the year goes on. And there's definitely no doubt that being on a football pitch helps us, but I suppose it's just one of those things that it's semi kind of out of our control. I know they've every year they look at alternatives, but that is just the best option for us.
Do you feel that's kind of been the biggest challenge? Maybe with sometimes you can see London compete with teams, and other times maybe you probably do take a heavy defeat along the way. Is that just really the biggest challenge? And is it something you feel that can be resolved in the next few years?
Yeah, it is. That is probably the biggest challenge. I think the other challenge is obviously the player turnover that we have. Like, I'd say no other county team loses half the panel year on year, and
Would that be the
possibly,
same this year compared to last year?
yeah, we actually lost an awful lot more this year compared to last year. So last year we actually retained quite a lot and were able to almost add to the panel, whereas this year I think we had 16 from last year's panel um, come back, and everybody, or say the remainder of the panel, was either new lads who moved over, lads who played club championship who were called up, and kind of a combination then of lads being promoted from the London junior team. So that's really, really hard trying to get lads in up to speed kind of as quickly as we can. So I suppose those two things combined, having a new panel in the start of the year, you never really know, like at the start of the year, where you're at. Because like we play challenge games, we play club, um, like friendly games. Sometimes we go to Ireland maybe for a weekend before Christmas, but you're kind of going into the league and you don't really know where you're at.
Mm.
Like a couple of years ago, it was actually the year we won 3 games on the trot, and we were down by 10 at halftime in Carlow, and you're kind of like, oh, here we go again. So it is like I always say, the first couple of league games are a litmus test. Like you don't really know where you're at. You think in training, yeah, we have a good team, or we have a good panel, we have some nice players, but then you just don't really know. Um, I suppose, like I think it would be great if London had like a pot of money to spend and develop their own, like almost like a center of excellence or a training center. I suppose the biggest issue there, the biggest barrier, is probably the price of land and where they're actually going to get it. Um, which is why we end up renting kind of from rugby clubs who are like quite established. They already have pitches and that. And it's the same with a lot of the club teams in London. A lot of the club teams don't actually own like their own premises, so they're kind of rented facilities as well. Um, like there's kind of a couple of clubs that would have their own pitches. So I suppose yeah, it's land is at such a premium here, and if you're trying to find it in like an area that suits everybody, um, it's probably not viable for a county board of London to invest that kind of money that you'd need, really.
You mentioned the turnover of players last year compared to this year, but this year that win against Mayo in the Dome in the FBD League, how big was that for this group of players?
Yeah, that was huge. Like we kind of spoke about that game and almost targeted it as like we need to get up to speed for that game. So we were kind of using that nearly as a crux to say that's like a stepping stone to the league. Whatever about the league, we're playing Mayo early January. We need to be up to speed. And I think like I mean, if I'm being honest, I don't. Our objective wasn't to actually win that game. We were just purely looking at let's put it in a performance. Let's lay some good groundworks that we can go. Yeah, we're confident going into the league. And we performed really, really well, which was probably the most pleasing thing that we had like new lads who had never played intercounty football before, that were able to come in and just step up to the plate straight away. Um, I suppose, yeah, morale, you could tell like morale was unbelievable after that. It just gave everybody such a lift. I suppose it just kind of gave us confidence that we're on the right track. We just stay going, we could have a good league. But like Division 4 league football is so different to anything. Like I wasn't getting too carried away after beating Mayo because Division 4 is just such a different kettle of fish, especially in the circumstances like the Dome, you know, preseason tournament. There was so many other factors. I kind of knew, look, this is a really, really good performance, but let's just, keep our feet in the ground.
How do you reflect on the league then overall with London?
Um, I suppose it was a bit disappointing. Like we ended up with a draw and a win. Um, like our objective at the start of the year was just let's pick up as many wins as we can. There was probably maybe two games where we felt at halftime we were definitely in the game, and if we had maybe managed the game a small bit better or been better at parts, that we actually should have and could have gone on to win. So I suppose that was probably the most disappointing part of the league, that we were in games but never actually got over the line. Um, in comparison to the year before, like there was a lot of games the year before where we just weren't competitive, or at halftime we kind of knew that almost the game has gone beyond even pulling back. Whereas this year, like we were competitive in most games. Maybe the scoreline at the end probably didn't reflect kind of the performance that we put in. I suppose that is the most disappointing thing, that we didn't get over the line, maybe particularly in one or two games. But like from a performance point of view, I think we were in 5, 10, 15 minute spells. We were actually quite good in parts. It was actually just knitting the whole thing together and being kind of as good as we can be for like the full 70 minutes.
It's been what now, probably a 2 week break to this since the league for this Galway game coming up this weekend. Have you done much since the league, or was it very much kind of a bit of a break after it?
Yeah, we have. There's kind of almost like a natural, I suppose, drop of intensity like the week after, just because the league is so intense. Like you're going week on week, and especially with the travel as well. Like if we have a game on a Sunday, we're traveling Saturday, back late Sunday evening. So like away games, your whole weekend is gone. Um, so the league is so intense. I suppose for the week after, we did just have to almost taper it back a small bit. Um, and then obviously just over the Easter bank holiday weekend gone, we kind of ramped it up again with, I suppose, the view to this week then tapering off to be really, really fresh for the weekend.
You're probably not going to mention this, but does the Galway injuries give you some hope this weekend as players?
Uh, yeah, I suppose it does. Like, I mean, would I rather play, a Galway team with all their big lads and all their big guns? No, I'd rather not play. Like, it does.
Yeah.
It gives us a much better chance. But I suppose for them, like they've, I don't know, but the team that they put out is probably going to be the team that played for them in the league. So they've had a decent league under them, like Division One football against the top teams in the country. So regardless of whether they're missing their big boys, they're still going to be like excellent players who've played consistent Division One football. I suppose for us, like no matter even in Division Four, like we need to be on the money every single time to even be in with a chance of winning a game. Like so, whatever about them, if we're below par or if we have an off day, we've pretty much no chance. That's just kind of the nature. I think for most Division Four teams, if you're not on it, you're probably not going to win. And especially like injuries for us, like if we're missing a few, like if you were to take, say, our, most experienced or our top 5 or 6 players, it's probably our panel probably isn't as strong in depth as like your Division One team, so it probably hits us an awful lot more. Whereas I feel like at that level, you could nearly churn in players in and out, and the drop off in quality might not be huge.
What's the aim this weekend?
Uh, Again, like without trying to, like I hate talking in cliches, but it is actually just to be as good as we can be. Like otherwise, we won't come out on the right side of the result if we're not. So we can only control what we can control. Realistically, we need to be on the money, do everything as best as we can, and hope that Galway have an off day. I mean, the odds are absolutely stacked against us. So I think when you're in that position of being such an underdog, the only thing you can focus on is yourself. And I suppose just breaking the game down into different pieces. And if you can be really, really good and do well in those sections or in those parts, and after that, you can hold your hands up and say, look, we did what we could. If it's not enough, it's not enough. So
Do you draw back on 2019? Because the game was definitely there for London that day against Galway when you mentioned you were in the stands for that one, but like London were in that game for large periods of the game.
yeah, no, we haven't actually spoken about that. I suppose like our panel is so different and so is theirs. There's probably 2 lads actually still playing from that team. Matt Moynihan played that day, and Liam Gallagher, I think he got injured leading up to it, but he was definitely on the squad that day. Yeah, like again, kind of going back to your other question, I suppose that is like part of it, just be in the game for as long as possible. Because from my own memory, that's what I remember of that game. Like Galway were kind of 4 or 5, that kind of distance. They were winning by that margin kind of all the way through the game, and then London got a goal, and next thing you could almost sense it got quite tense around the place, and you kind of thought there could be a shock on the cards here. So I suppose, yeah, that's like you said in the last question, like what are we looking for? We are looking to just stay in the game for as long as possible, because if Galway kind of keep us at punching distance and go on 6, 7, 8, it could be a cricket score. So yeah, we'll try and keep the game as tight as we can. The longer it's tense and the longer it's in the melting pot, yeah, it gives us every chance. So yeah, we haven't spoken about that game, but if there was a repeat of something like that again on Saturday, yeah, we'd be very happy.
We had David Wynn on, your clubmate, on the podcast last week. He was talking about when he played that game in Ruislip in 19, that he ran out to the corner near the fence for a kick out, and he said it's a unique atmosphere. You look to your left and there's fans in the stadium in Ruislip having pints. The sun was shining, and then you're playing in the heat of battle. Ruislip, it's going to be a unique atmosphere on Saturday.
Yeah, he's dead right. Yeah, it is like that. It is a real like carnival party atmosphere. It's really like no other game kind of that I played in. Like even like a county final, or like from what you see around from other counties, or any other game I've been involved in. It is really, really unique. It is a big like party atmosphere. I suppose part of it is the novelty of like a Galway or say somebody coming over, and the supporters just make a weekend out of it, which is brilliant for them, you know. Yeah, and Ruislip is quite tight as well. They obviously have the stand on one side, but the perimeter around the pitch, yeah, the supporters will be fairly close. Yeah, it's definitely unique. Yeah, you've almost like the smell of like burgers and hot dogs and stuff floating across, which you don't always get kind of in games in Ireland. So it's very, very different. I suppose, yeah, what I'd be trying to say to our lads is just, you know, block it out, because if you get caught up in that stuff, the game just goes by like a flash, and you don't really, you know, you don't get, um, you know, there's just so much distraction going on around the place. It is so different. So yeah, I try and block it all out. But from a from being there 5 years ago, it's a really, really good weekend, and it's a really, really good day.
Just for yourself then, Captain of London this year, is that what makes it, I suppose, even more special for you this weekend to Captain London against your own county?
Um, yeah, I suppose it does. Like, I think regardless of whether we were playing Galway or not, I'm, you know, I feel very lucky to have been asked to, first of all, to represent and play for London, but secondly to be captain. So I suppose, I mean, yeah, there is that nice part of it that, you know, you'll captain London against Galway, but regardless of who we were playing, I do actually feel quite privileged to be in the position that I'm in, to have been asked to be captain of London, and something I'm really, really proud of. Yeah.
That's all we do. Time for in part one of the show. We'll have Kevin Johnson next in part two of the show. But Eoin Walsh, thanks a million for your time. Best of luck on Saturday. We still all want to go and win, but best of luck anyways here. And thanks a million for coming on to the podcast.
No worries, Paul. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome along to part two of the Maroon White Pod, where we're going to look ahead to Galway London this weekend and Galway's championship ambitions as the championship campaign begins this Saturday at 3 in Ruislip. I'm delighted to be joined by Corofin senior football manager Kevin Johnson to look ahead to the game. Before we do that, Kevin, 2023, your second year in charge of Corofin, for what you achieved, Connacht title, you must be happy as you reflect back on that now.
Yeah, look, it's you know, we set out at the start of the year to try to, you know, focus on each game at a time, and Galway was a massive challenge. We knew that, and you know, to retain and get back to Frank Fox and to Corofin was massive, and it was massive for this group of players, and you know, massive for everyone involved. So no, we were delighted, and it was a fantastic year to win the league and championship double.
I know after the game against St. Bridget's, there were certain aspects which maybe you were disappointed with that performance, but when you're able to kind of look back at it now, is there still massive pride in reaching a Connacht final?
Yeah, you know, like you know, it's the highest level of the game in the province, and they're the games you want to be part of and involved in, and you know, we were very disappointed in the end, but look, it's a learning for this team. It was a learning for me as well, and the management team, and we're just hoping that we can bring those learnings into 2024, and you know, we're 2 rounds now into the league, and just looking forward and looking ahead, and you know, it's going to be a very difficult Galway championship again this year. So look, we won't look back too much, but you know, we know that you know, 2024 now will be another massive challenge.
I know when I had John last year, there was a certain amount of excitement about your players you had with the Galway under-20s last year, but in particular when you look at the evolution of Patrick Egan and Jack McCabe to be drafted into the Galway senior setup and still so young in terms of intercounty football, are you delighted for those, and is there a sense of pride with the performances they gave last year?
Yeah, look, young players, and the fantastic thing about being involved in a club like Corofin is that there's constant development of, you know, young players, and that conveyor belt is constantly coming through. You know, 3 lads would have started in the first round of the under-20 this year, and you know, there's 6 lads on that panel as well. So like, it's just always about looking forward and trying to help develop the best. You know, what can we do for these younger players as well? But you know, I mean, 4 lads on the under-20 last year: Brian Cogger, Patrick Egan, Bernie Cohn started in the Connacht final. Then Jack McCabe was a substitute, and it was just fantastic to see them as the summer went on develop into adult footballers, because there is a big difference between under-20 and adult football. And seeing them develop and getting the call up, Patrick Egan and Jack getting the call up into Galway this year, it's fantastic to see for them. They're in a high performance environment now, and that's going to be challenging, but it's fantastic to see them getting game time the last few weeks as well. And hopefully they're learning a lot, and they'll bring a lot of those learners back into the club come summer.
Kieran Brady too, a player that maybe struggled with injuries last year, but he's probably a lesson to a lot of club footballers around that age, that it's not too late for an intercounty career in your mid-20s, maybe when you're not getting that look in, just if you put your hand up in that club campaign.
Yeah, he did. And, it's about that. It's about being patient sometimes as well, and just working really hard. And, Kieran is a very dedicated player, so he would have worked extremely hard last year. He was extremely unlucky. Was against Uachtar, in which he broke his collarbone, and that put him out for about 10 weeks. But he came back in the county final, had a fantastic county final, and played against Ballinan, against St. Bridget's also in the Connacht club. So no, look, I mean, again, it's a high performance environment he's in with Galway now. So that's brilliant for him, and we're expecting that will help him bring another level to his game.
You're talking there about younger players, but one of your more experienced men last year, Gary Sice. When you seen what he kept doing as the games kept getting bigger and bigger, no surprise to you, but what's it like to manage a player like Gary?
Look, Gary's experience is fantastic, and he's been there and done that, and what he brings, it's just what he brings, and it's infectious to a lot of the players around, and that's fantastic for younger players as well, because it helps elevate them, it helps raise the bar all the time, and his expectations are very high, and that's infectious around the club and around the group, so that's important. But yeah, look, for Gary personally, it was a fantastic year for him. He won the Galway Player of the Year as well, which was brilliant. And I know he really did enjoy his football last year, and I think that was really one thing he focused on, was just getting back to really enjoying his football, and you could see that in the games.
You mentioned there the league back, hard to believe already, but with that, there has been a lot of commentary on the split season. As a club manager, do you feel tweaks need to be made, or do you feel like we have not the perfect balance, but some sort of a balance at the minute?
It's a very complex question, because every county is different, and then the circumstances is different within clubs as well. I mean, Galway is a dual county, so therefore with the every second week of playing league football and league hurling, followed by championship football and championship hurling, it works really well. And it's brilliant for a county like Galway that you get your games played. There's clarity on the season. We would have got our dates, 6-7 weeks ago from the county board, and we now know exactly what the year looks like. So from a planning point of view, from a management point of view, it's definitely provides an awful lot more clarity, and we welcome that. I think players welcome that, and it's a massive welcome for the majority. But obviously, there's a big discussion from the intercounty side that it is more condensed, and it is a lot more difficult for county players to go straight back into club, and then especially for the club players that goes on to provincial finals and All-Ireland semi-finals and All-Ireland finals, that there is you're on the go nearly 12 months of the year, and that is difficult, and that's why it's so complex, because you will not keep everyone happy. But I think for the majority, and my own experience in club football in recent years, I think clarity is massive for the club player, and I think it's definitely helped that, and I definitely welcome that.
Is your only concern, though, particularly even just as a Corofin manager at the moment, the 7 players with the county, they are being flogged throughout the year, and there has been this argument that there isn't really a break for the county player at the minute?
Yeah, and that's the difficult question, but we don't really look at that right now. I mean, we focus on a league campaign without the county players, and all the clubs in Galway do that, and that's fine. We have absolutely no problem with that. It's an opportunity for younger players to get game time. We probably wouldn't went on, and we wouldn't have had the chance to develop a lot of the younger players last year if we didn't have the opportunity in the league to play these lads when the county players are away. So it's a fantastic opportunity for clubs to develop. The league is what it is, but from a burnout point of view, Galway were knocked out in the championship in early June last year, so it allowed a bit of time there for players to kind of group. A lot of our lads would have went away for a week or two at that time and would have been back fresh for the first round of the championship. So it all depends, because the year before Galway was in an All-Ireland final and they had only a 7-day turnaround. So it all depends on how far you run in your All-Ireland series. But for last year, that wasn't a factor. While, for Galway would like that to be a factor this year, but it's just circumstances are different all the time.
Yeah, it definitely just feels like it's an argument that's going to keep going for quite a while. But this weekend now, the focus for Galway, after maybe you could say frustration in the league and somewhat with the injuries and what went on. But before you look at this London game, from the outside, like, how did you view Galway's league campaign?
Look, it was a mixed campaign, but I think the goal at the start of the year for Galway would have been to retain Division 1 status, and they did that. And the second goal would be to try to find and develop a few new players, and they did that. So, listening to the Galway management and John Daly in on the radio there during the week, you can see that, look, the league is now parked. It's all about looking forward. They've retained their Division 1 status. The 4 or 5 debutants that met league, that debuted there in the league, they're now stronger. They've been exposed to Division 1 football. It's about increasing the panel, being stronger all the time. And I think they're really ready for this kind of campaign that, it is a nice, I suppose, opening round. If they do come through London, you have the winners of Sligo Leitrim, and then a Connacht final against Muir or Roscommon if they get through that. So look, they'll know that they have a 6-week plan now to get ready for the round robin stages in mid-June.
The injury crisis, it's going to be something that's mentioned, because it's mentioned with every guest I have on the podcast. But as a manager yourself, you can plan for things, but to plan for the core of your team to be injured, that's surely something that you just think never will happen at the same one time.
Yes, but also now is the time to get those injuries, because like when you look at the current team right now, defensively they have probably everyone back. Yeah. So this time last year they hadn't the same amount of injuries, but the new Liam Silk wasn't going to be back. The new Sean Mulcairns wasn't going to be back. The new Kieran Malloy was unlikely at the way he was coming back from the ACL injury. So at that stage, they knew that these were long-term injuries and players away. While this time there's a different, I think there's a very different vibe, because the possibility that, if Galway gets to a pre-quarter final in 11 weeks time, there's a very strong chance that every single one of those players are going to be back. So there's real clarity in terms of where they want to go. They have a vision on where they want to go. And if you're going to get injuries, the best time to get them is in the league.
So this weekend now, London, it's a game everyone expects Galway to win, but from having London captain Eoin Walsh on the podcast earlier in the show, there definitely is challenges with this London trip for this Galway team this weekend.
There are challenges like in any game, and to me, it's going to be all about Galway's attitude and how they approach the game. And if they're mentally in the right frame of mind, then I think they should come through it relatively easy. I don't like using that word easy, but I think at the end of the day, London has, lost 5 games in Division 4, finished second from bottom with 3 points. They're at a different level at the moment. And I think if Galway has serious ambitions about going forward, their attitude will be right. Their focus will be right. And I think they can really use this game now as a confidence builder. And I think that's what they will be going for.
Especially there, you mentioned attitude being right. even from listening to John Daly during the week, he was talking about that game in 19. That is nearly a certain game where these Galway players have been warned heading over this weekend.
Yeah, look, you take no game for granted, no matter what type of game it is. But I do believe, and I think it's clear that Galway are at a different level than London at the moment, and Galway's aspirations are very different as well. So I think, once that focus is right and the attitude is right going into that game, I think Galway will have too much power. They'll have too much pace and they have too much strength and depth as well for what London is bringing at the moment. And I think, it's also an opportunity for some of the young lads, and I expect a few of the young lads will get make championship debuts in this game as well. And they're getting an opportunity to wear the Galway jersey, and if they put in a big performance and Galway win, it's an opportunity again to get the jersey again in the semi-final. So it's going to be very difficult for these lads to break into this team in a few weeks' time when players are coming back, and the competitive environment that's going to be created once a few of these senior players are back. So look, this is just an opportunity. So they don't want to give their jersey to anyone else.
From the makeup of the team this weekend, I think Sean Kelly's the closest you won't expect to see. Going by the press day, you won't expect to see Killian McDade, Matthew Tierney, Shane Walsh, or Damien Comer this weekend. But would you expect the team to be very similar to that team that played against Kerry in the final round of the league?
Yeah, as I said earlier, defensively they have nearly all their players back now, and they've looked solid also defensively in the league. And I think from a game model point of view, they all seem to be on the same page. They know what they're about from a defensive point of view. Johnny McGrath, Sean Fitzgerald, I think will start. I heard John Concannon speaking during the week about, Johnny McGrath having an absolutely brilliant league campaign. He was the designated marker on all the key guys on opposition, and I expect the same to happen against London. Sean Fitzgerald is learning all the time. He started against Mayo in the pre-quarter last year, so he's built on that, and he's played, most of the league this year as well. So I expect to see Johnny and Sean Fitz. And then the other corner is the interesting one, because you've now Liam Silk back and you've Jack Lynn pushing. You've Owen Kelly that's played there in the last couple of games. But, I mean, that's serious competition. What an incredible place for Galway to be in now going into the first round of the Connacht with Liam Silk and Jack Lynn, Owen Kelly and possibly Sean Mulcairns as well pushing for that one position. That's exactly where you want to be. From a half-back point of view, Dylan McHugh, John Daly, I think will start. Two of them seem to be settled there. Again, very experienced players. And then you have that wing-back position that you have the likes of Ciara Malloy, Daniel Flaherty, possibly Liam Silk could be pushed up there like he was the last day. So defensively, Galway, have now 10 defenders, while maybe 2 years ago in the All-Ireland final, the 6 defenders that started finished the game, and when Kerry outscored them 8-2 in that last quarter, Galway didn't really have that strength and depth defensively. While now, after calling out all those names, there's really strength and depth. So I expect from a defensive point of view, Galway will be very solid the next day.
Where's Liam Silk's best position?
Liam's a multifunctional footballer. And what I mean by that is, like, you can play a Liam anywhere. He, when you have the ball, he gives you such a presence going forward. His off the ball runnings, and he's such a strong runner. And then without the ball, he's such a strong tackler, and he's a brilliant reader of the game. And I think Liam, cornerback, wing back, those two positions, he's seamless in both. You saw him in the All-Ireland final that time in cornerback. He won an All-Star from that position. He's played wing back for Galway and for club in the past. But what I think is nice is that the Galway management seem to be clear that Johnny McGrath will be the man to target the opposition's key player, which gives the likes of Liam Silk a little bit more freedom. It gives Sean Kelly's a little bit more freedom. It gives Dylan McHugh, John Daly a little bit more freedom. So I think, depending on or looking at the Kerry game, I think possibly he could end up wing back for this game.
Just with that, then in midfield, we've kind of stuck with Cian Darcy, John Maher, and Paul Conroy has drifted out there. It's probably expected to be the same this weekend. Forwards is probably the most interesting position in Galway? Because given the injuries, a lot of players have got their chances.
Yeah, and that's difficult, and the most difficult part with forward play is trying to build chemistry among your players, and with just the unsettledness of the team at the moment with all the injuries from the forwards, it's difficult to get a settled team, and therefore it's difficult to build the chemistry, and I suppose build on your game model and understand exactly what to build the cohesion in the team. And I think that's probably what's lacked in this league campaign, is because there's been different personnel in different positions throughout the league. And I think once Galway can settle on that and find their best six players with being injury free, obviously, you'll see a lot of that cohesion and chemistry coming. For the next day, I don't think it's going to change an awful lot from what we saw against Kerry, mainly because a certain amount of the players won't be back. But Galway love to go with big players around the half forward line and midfield and interchanging them. And last year, Matthew Tierney and Peter Cook were brilliant for that. So the likes of John Maher and Paul Conroy would find themselves on the half forward line a lot of the time as well. And those players can interchange. And this year now, without Peter Cook and Matthew Tierney not available either, Keane Darcy is playing that role. So you'll see Keane play between half forward and midfield, and that's something Galway has always done. They love interchanging those positions all the time and keeping the opposition guessing. But Cathal Sweeney and Johnny Heaney then will probably be the other wing forwards, and that's what he's seen to go with. And the full forward line then is probably what's changed a lot last year. In the first round of Connacht was Damien Comer, Ian Burke and Shane Walsh, and Ian is gone now, so and Shane and Damien injured. You'll expect to see probably Robert Finnerty is back in, which is playing really well as well. And then you have the players like Killian O'Curran and Rory Cunningham and Liam O'Keneally, and probably two out of those three will get into the other two positions, I see.
Just for some of those players, they've had some good days and then they've had some tough days where they've been taken off early. But no disrespect to London this weekend, but for a lot of those players, they've been coming up against Division 1 man markers. Is this an environment you feel where these new players, given the experience they've got throughout the year, can thrive?
Yeah, and that's what the league is about. Helping these young players to learn and develop and expose them to Division 1 football and be ready then for Championship football when it comes around. And I expect the Galway management would have absolutely no fear of Killian O'Curran going in there, Rory Cunningham, Liam O'Keneally going in and doing a job. And these are quality footballers. They're young, but you have to get game time, and they probably wouldn't have got the game time if the likes of Shane Walsh and Damien Comer wasn't injured. So I think again, it's only good looking forward that when the likes of Damien and when the likes of Shane comes back into this team, that now there is competition there, and that there is, that it is a difficult team to make.
This weekend, you mentioned it should be easy for Galway, but with Ruislip, it's almost like a carnival atmosphere. A lot of Galway fans would go there this weekend in excitement, and they'll enjoy their weekend and make the most of it. But for Galway, it really matters, you think, this weekend about being on it early on and trying to put this game to bed as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and that's what fans do, and that's what they're meant to do. But that's noise, and Galway is serious about what they're about, and they're not going to let that noise in any way affect their preparations. Look, they have a job to do, and they would love to put it to bed early. Sligo went there last year and came out with a 14-point win, and put that game to bed fairly early as well. I know London has gone and beat Mayo in the FPT this year and put up a good performance against Roscommon, but they didn't really build on that in the league campaign. And I think right now there is a different, it is different class. I think London will, have a plan. They're definitely well coached and well drilled, like all teams currently. But I think this Galway team, they're in a different league at the moment. And I think if they just come with that right attitude, the right focus, I expect that they will try to put this game to bed early on and, look forward.
You mentioned earlier on, the route is really here for Galway. It's almost like after this London game, it goes up a notch in the semi-final, and then if they were to get past the semi-final, it goes up another notch. So it's a perfect way to build momentum. But a lot of conversation around the minute that Derry, Kerry and Dublin are in a league of their own as All-Ireland contenders. Do you still believe Galway are in that conversation?
Yeah, because like there's even more teams. There's Kerry and there's Armagh, there's Donegal, like Mayo will believe they're in the conversation. You see, this All Ireland will still take a life of its own, and provincial championships now is, some teams will use it as preparation for the round robins. Some teams will want to go out to win it. I expect Dublin will probably win Leinster. That means they're seeded. Kerry will more than likely win Munster. They will be seeded. Ulster will be very difficult. It will be a very difficult championship for Derry to win after winning that National League. But Galway will want to win Connacht, because if they can win Connacht, it means they will be seeded, and they will avoid the Dublin, they will avoid Kerry, and they will avoid one of the big teams in Ulster. And that's a real attractive incentive for Galway. So that's why this Connacht Championship is really important to them. The second thing is Galway has been in the last 8 Connacht finals. So they'll want to get to another Connacht final and do themselves justice to have won 4 out of those 8. And, it's 3 in a row if they're good, and that's 3 in a row Connacht titles for Pádraig would be absolutely massive momentum and massive confidence. And I think right now, after the league, that confidence may not be there, but in 6 weeks' time after Connacht Championship, that confidence might be there going into round robins, and they will love to go into the round robin as a seeded team. And you can see what that means going into the All-Ireland series, because if you could go in without avoiding a Derry, Kerry and a Dublin, it puts you favourite to possibly top that group into a quarter-final. And that's how important the Connacht Championship is right now.
Just on that, you mentioned the importance of winning the Connacht Championship, and there really is an incentive there. But from the league, where would you like to see Galway improve most?
Well, you see, it's difficult because they haven't had a settled team. And, as I said, defensively, they've had a lot of defenders. And right now, they're probably at their strongest possible, strongest possible pool of players to choose from a defence point of view. But it's just trying to build that chemistry and cohesion in with the forwards. And I think, their forward play probably has to become more direct. But obviously, it will become more direct if you have the likes of Shane Walsh and Damien Comer playing for you. So your game model depends on the players you have playing, and it is a different team when the likes of Damien and Shane aren't playing, because they're very big players for Galway, and they're very big game players as well. So Galway's directness will more than likely depend on whether they're playing or not. And I think that's something, management will be eager to improve and mix, try to mix your game up more with long and short. But just at the moment, I think we didn't see a lot of that in the league, mainly because the personnel was so different.
Just from seeing the league final yesterday, Kevin, between Dublin and Derry, it was great to see for a lot of Gaelic football supporters, but for a lot of people who maybe do complain about the game a lot, and obviously this new Gaelic football rules committee have been brought in, but overall, from seeing that yesterday, like a lot of fans, you would have to say it's in somewhat of a healthy place.
Oh, yesterday was brilliant.
Yeah.
It was brilliant, and it was just such a brilliant watch for the neutral. But the game, we've seen the Galway County final this year. I'll go back to that. Like,
Yeah.
Corofin against Moycullen was just an absolutely incredible game for the neutral as well. Games will take lives of their own, and I expect this championship to do the same. It's just it's a long way to go now, because the Division 1 teams are guaranteed round robin now. So they're guaranteed 3 games, and 3 out of the 4 teams are going to go through to knockout football. So it's very hard to get too pumped up in February, March, April when these massive games are coming. And everything was going so well for Galway 12 months ago. They were coming out of the league final. They beat Roscommon. They beat Sligo in a Connacht final. They were seeded in the round robin. They went and beat Tyrone, beat Westmeath. And all of a sudden, their eyes are nearly focused. All-Ireland quarter-final, 2 weeks to plan. And everything within 7 days just changed. And some of that wasn't even Westmeath drawn with Tyrone changed that as well. And It was just an incredible turn of events. And I think right now Galway will learn an awful lot from that. And I think right now is the talk of injuries, and there's so much talk about, you know, their forward play, etc. I think right now Galway has the Connacht Championship to really try to build confidence, build momentum, get a few players back, start, you know, really working on their forward play, and all of a sudden you're going in a definitely different, in a very different mindset into the round robin. And you know, if you go in there seeded, you have a very strong chance of getting straight into an All Ireland quarter final, and anything can happen then. You know, anything can happen then, and you know they would definitely fancy their chances against, you know, any other team in a knockout game, possibly in a place like Croke Park. So, you know, these games will definitely take life of their own, and it's very early. You know, we're talking here at the first week of 1st of April, and you know these big games are going to come in June, and I know the Galway management know that, and that's exactly what they're preparing for.
From players and management, it's almost like they're viewing the Connacht Championship and All Ireland series as two separate competitions.
Because they are two separate competitions, really, at the end of the day, because, you know, obviously the incentive of winning Connacht gets you seeded, but you would have saw Mayo win the National League this time last year, and within 7 days were knocked out against Roscommon in the first round of Connacht, which gave them 6 weeks to prepare for the round robin stages. And then they ended up then playing Galway and Pearse Stadium in the pre-quarter and winning that and losing to Dublin in the quarter. But you know, all these games to get to there, Galway know they're in a round robin. They know that they would love to be seeded, and they would also love to win 3 in a row Connacht titles, because it's silverware, it's confidence, it's also going to develop these younger players every game you play in Connacht. So no, they'll be taking it very serious. But they have a nice run now. You know, I think Sunday they'll be professional. They'll know exactly what they need to do, and they look forward to Sligo Leitrim then in 2 weeks' time.
Well, that's all we do time for on today's show. Kevin, thanks a million for coming on.
Thank you, Paul.